Respect isn't given freely. It's not something you demand. It's not something you fake. And it's definitely not something you get just for showing up. Respect is earned through consistent demonstration of character, through the way you move when no one's forcing you to move, right? Through who you are when the pressure is on and the easy path is available. Most men spend their entire lives confused about why they don't command respect. They're competent. They work hard. They're not bad people. And yet, something's missing. People don't look to them in moments of crisis. People don't trust them with what matters most. People don't feel that gravitational pull, that sense that this is someone worth following. And the reason is simple. They've built skills, but not character. They've accumulated credentials, but not credibility. They've learned how to do things, but not how to be someone. Because respect doesn't come from what you know. It comes from who you are. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Not perform being one. Not talk about being one. Be one." And being one requires specific character traits, qualities that can't be faked, can't be performed, can't be talked about, only lived. And when you live them consistently, when they become so integrated into who you are that you couldn't separate them if you tried, that's when respect arrives. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Through every small choice, every hard moment, every time you chose character over convenience. The Stoics identified these qualities thousands of years ago, and they're just as relevant now as they were then. Maybe more so. Because in a world where everyone's performing, posturing, pretending, the man who simply is becomes impossible to ignore. So today, we're going to break down the 7 character traits that make you command respect. Not the kind of respect that comes from fear or titles, but the kind that comes from genuine recognition, from people looking at how you move through the world and thinking, "That's someone I want to be like. That's someone I can trust. That's someone who matters." And once you understand these traits, once you begin building them into your daily life, everything changes. Character trait number 1, unshakable integrity. Let's start with the foundation, because without this, nothing else matters. Integrity is doing what's right, even when no one's watching, even when it costs you something, even when the easier path is right there, even when you could get away with the shortcut. Most men think they have integrity, but integrity isn't theoretical, it's tested, and the test comes in the small moments. When you're at the store and the cashier gives you too much change, when you could blame someone else for your mistake and no one would know, when you could cut a corner and save time, money, effort. Those moments, that's where integrity lives or dies, and people can tell. They might not catch you in the act, but they sense it. They sense whether you're someone whose word means something, or someone who's always calculating angles. Epictetus taught, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Meaning, integrity sometimes looks stupid. Sometimes it costs you the deal, the opportunity, the advantage. Sometimes it means admitting fault when you could have hidden it. Sometimes it means keeping your word even when it hurts. And weak men can't do that, because they've confused cleverness with wisdom. They think getting away with something is the same as being smart, but it's not. Getting away with something is just delayed consequences, and those consequences compound. Because every time you compromise your integrity, you train yourself that your standards are negotiable. You teach yourself that your word is conditional. And slowly, piece by piece, you become someone you don't respect. And if you don't respect yourself, why would anyone else? Men who command respect have a line, and that line doesn't move. Not for money, not for convenience, not for fear. It just is. and everyone around them knows it. They know this is someone who won't betray you, who won't throw you under the bus to save themselves, who won't say one thing to your face and another behind your back. That knowledge, it creates trust, and trust is the currency of respect. Seneca wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay," and the same is true for integrity decisions. When you're tempted to compromise, delay. Give yourself a moment to remember who you said you'd be, to consider how you'll feel about this choice tomorrow, next year, at the end of your life. And 9 times out of 10, that delay will pull you back to integrity. Because deep down, you know what's right. You just needed a moment to choose it over what's easy. So here's the practice. Make one small integrity decision every day. Keep a promise even when it's inconvenient. Tell the truth even when a lie would be easier. Do the right thing even when no one's watching. And over time, those small decisions stack. They build a foundation so solid that compromising becomes impossible. Not because you're trying hard to be good, but because you've become someone for whom integrity is automatic. And people feel that. They feel that they're dealing with someone real, someone solid, someone who commands respect, not by demanding it, but by living in a way that makes it inevitable. Character trait number 2, calm under pressure. Here's the second trait, composure when everyone else is losing theirs. The ability to stay calm, centered, clear-thinking when chaos is swirling around you, when everyone's panicking, when the pressure is crushing. Most men think courage means never feeling afraid, but that's not it. Courage means feeling the fear and not letting it control you. Composure means feeling the pressure and not letting it break you. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire through wars, plagues, and constant threats, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He understood that external circumstances will always be chaotic, but internal state, that's yours to control. And the men who command the most respect are the ones who maintain that control when it matters most. Think about the people you respect, the ones you'd follow in a crisis. They're not the ones screaming, blaming, panicking. They're the ones staying calm, assessing the situation, making decisions from clarity instead of fear. That composure, it's magnetic. Because in moments of chaos, people look for someone to anchor to, someone who's not being swept away by the current, someone who's standing firm. And when you can be that person, when you can be the calm in the storm, respect is automatic. But composure isn't natural, it's trained. It's built through deliberate practice in smaller pressures, so that when the big pressure comes, you're ready. Here's how you build it. First, control your breathe. When stress hits, your breathing becomes shallow, and shallow breathing triggers your sympathetic nervous system, putting you in fight or flight mode, where clear thinking is impossible. But if you can slow your breath, 4 counts in, hold 4, 6 counts out, you override that response. You signal to your brain, we're okay, we can think clearly. Second, zoom out. Most pressure feels massive because you're zoomed in on it. But when you ask, will this matter in 5 years? Suddenly, it shrinks. Perspective is the antidote to panic. Third, focus on what you control. In any crisis, there are things you can control and things you can't. Panic comes from focusing on what you can't control. Composure comes from focusing on what you can. So when pressure hits, ask, what's in my control right now? And then do that thing. Ignore everything else. That focus, it creates calm. and calm creates clarity, and clarity creates respect. Because people see someone who doesn't fall apart, who doesn't need perfect conditions to function, who can be trusted when things go wrong. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. And every time you maintain composure under pressure, you're strengthening that muscle. You're becoming someone who can be relied on, not just when things are easy, but when everything's falling apart. And that reliability? That's what respect is built on." Character trait number 3, radical accountability. Here's where most men fail. They can't take responsibility. They blame circumstances, other people, bad luck. They have an excuse for everything. And while those excuses might protect their ego in the moment, they destroy their respect over time. Because accountability is the clearest signal of maturity, of strength, of someone who's in control of their life. Men who command respect don't make excuses. When something goes wrong, they don't point fingers. They say, "That's on me," and they fix it, even when it's not entirely their fault, even when they could easily blame someone else, even when taking responsibility costs them something, because they understand something crucial. Accountability is power. When you blame others, you're admitting you're powerless. You're saying, "My results depend on other people's actions." You're giving away your agency. But when you take responsibility, even for things outside your control, you're saying, "I'm the one who determines outcomes." You're reclaiming your power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And that mindset only works if you take responsibility. If you see every obstacle as your problem to solve, not someone else's fault to complain about. Look at the men you respect most. When they fail, what do? They don't deflect, they don't minimize, they don't justify. They acknowledge it. "I messed up. Here's how I'm fixing it. Here's how I'll make sure it doesn't happen again." That response? It's disarming. Because most people expect defensiveness. They expect excuses. And when they don't get them, when they see someone who can look failure in the face and own it, respect is inevitable. Because ownership is rare, and rare things have value. Here's the practice. For the next month, ban the following phrases from your vocabulary. "It's not my fault." "I would have, but." "They should have." "If only." Replace them with, "That's on me. I could have done better. Next time, I'll." And watch what happens. Watch how people start treating you differently, because you've stopped being someone who makes excuses and become someone who makes things happen. Epictetus taught, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And accountability is a philosophy you embody through every choice to own your results, instead of outsourcing them. Through every moment you take responsibility, instead of taking the easy way out. And over time, that pattern becomes your reputation. You become known as someone who doesn't make excuses, who doesn't blame others, who takes ownership. And that reputation? It commands respect, automatically, permanently, powerfully. Because people know they can count on you, not to be perfect, but to be accountable. And in a world full of finger pointers, that makes you invaluable. Character trait number 4, consistent discipline. Let's talk about the trait that separates talkers from doers. Discipline. Not the burst of motivation kind, not the New Year's resolution kind, but the boring, unsexy, show-up-every-day kind. The kind that doesn't need inspiration, the kind that just is. Because here's what most men don't understand. People don't respect your intentions. They respect your consistency. They don't care what you say you're going to do. They care what you actually do, day after day, week after week, year after year. Aristotle said it perfectly. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And respect is the same. It's not earned through one impressive act. It's earned through 1,000 small acts, done consistently, even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. Men who command respect have routines, things they do whether they feel like it or not, whether it's convenient or not, whether anyone notices or not. They work out not when they're motivated, but when it's time. They do their work not when inspiration strikes, but when the work needs doing. They keep their word not when it's easy, but because they gave it. And people notice that pattern. They notice that you're someone who doesn't need perfect conditions, who doesn't need external pressure, who doesn't need to be managed or motivated. You just do what needs to be done. And that reliability? It's magnetic. Because most people are chaos. They're all over the place. Great one week, gone the next. They start strong and fade fast. They're hot and cold, inconsistent, unpredictable. And while they might have potential, they don't have discipline. And without discipline, potential means nothing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Such as are your habitual thoughts, such also will be the character of your mind." And your habitual actions reveal your character more than any words could. So what do your actions say about you? Do they say you're someone who follows through, or someone who talks big but delivers small? Do they say you're someone who can be counted on, or someone who's only reliable when it's convenient? Here's the practice. Choose 3 non-negotiables. 3 things you do every single day, regardless of how you feel. Maybe it's work out for 30 minutes, read for 20 minutes, journal for 10 minutes. Doesn't matter what they are. What matters is that you do them every day. No exceptions, no negotiations. And at first, it'll be hard. You'll want to skip, to make exceptions, to give yourself a break. But don't, because every day you keep going is a day you're building the character trait that commands respect. And every day you skip is a day you're reinforcing the opposite. Seneca warned, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And the biggest waste is starting things you never finish, building momentum you never maintain, being someone different every month instead of becoming someone consistent." So commit to discipline, not as a temporary project, but as a permanent identity shift, from someone who needs motivation to someone who has discipline. And watch how respect follows. Because people see someone who doesn't quit, who doesn't need perfect conditions, who just keeps showing up. And that consistency, it commands respect without you ever having to ask for it. Character trait number 5, controlled emotional expression. Here's a trait most modern men get wrong: emotional control. Not emotional suppression, that's different, but the ability to feel emotions without being controlled by them, to experience anger without lashing out, to experience sadness without collapsing, to experience fear without freezing. Men who command respect aren't robots. They feel everything, but they choose how to express it. They don't react, they respond. There's a gap between stimulus and response, and in that gap is your power. Most men give that power away. Someone disrespects them, they explode. Something goes wrong, they panic. Someone challenges them, they get defensive. And in those reactions, they lose respect. Because they've revealed that they're controlled by their emotions, not in control of them. Marcus Aurelius faced constant pressure, wars, betrayals, assassination attempts, and he wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Meaning, your emotional state is yours to control. Not perfectly, not easily, but ultimately it's yours. When someone disrespects you, you can choose to explode, or you can choose to pause, assess, respond strategically. When something goes wrong, you can choose to panic, or you can choose to breathe, think, act. When someone challenges you, you can choose to get defensive, or you can choose to listen, consider, respond. And the men who make the second choice, they command respect. Because people see someone who isn't easily rattled, who doesn't need to lash out to feel powerful, who can handle discomfort without making it everyone else's problem. That emotional mastery? It's leadership, because in moments of high emotion, people look to see how you're responding. If you're panicking, they'll panic. If you're calm, they'll calm. Your emotional state sets the tone. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And how you react reveals your character. Do you react from fear or from wisdom? From ego or from principle? From emotion or from strategy?" Here's the practice. When you feel a strong emotion rising, anger, fear, frustration, pause for 5 seconds before responding. Just 5 seconds. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this response going to serve me? Is this the response of the man I'm trying to become? And then respond from that place, not from the raw emotion, but from the values underneath it. This doesn't mean suppressing emotion, it means channeling it. Anger can become determination. Fear can become focus. Frustration can become fuel, but only if you control the expression, only if you don't let the emotion control you. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And most men's emotional reactions are unconscious. They're automatic, unexamined, childish. But when you make them conscious, when you pause and choose, you stop being a victim of your emotions and become the master of them. And that mastery commands respect, because people see someone who doesn't fall apart, who doesn't need perfect conditions to maintain composure, who can be trusted with difficult situations, because they trust themselves to handle whatever emotions arise. That's maturity. That's strength. That's respect. Character trait number 6. Principled decision-making. Here's a trait that separates men who lead from men who follow. They make decisions based on principles, not on politics. They have a code, a set of values that guide their choices, and they don't abandon that code when it's inconvenient. Most men are flexible in their values. They say they believe one thing, but when pressure comes, when money's involved, when social status is at stake, suddenly their principles are negotiable, and people notice. They notice that you stand for nothing, that you bend with whatever wind is blowing, that you can't be trusted to make the hard call because you'll always choose the easy path. Men who command respect don't do that. They know what they stand for, and they stand there, even when it costs them, even when everyone else is going a different direction, even when the popular choice is the opposite. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." And the trials that perfect you are the moments when your principles are tested, when doing the right thing costs you something, when standing by your values means standing alone. Those moments, that's where character is revealed. And the men who pass those tests, who choose principle over popularity, who choose what's right over what's easy. They command respect. Not from everyone, necessarily, but from the people whose respect actually matters. Because shallow people respect whatever's winning, but deep people respect consistency. They respect someone who can't be bought, who can't be swayed by pressure, who knows what they stand for and stands there. Here's how you develop this. First, define your principles. What are the 5 to 7 values you're not willing to compromise? Integrity, loyalty, honesty, courage, service? Write them down. Make them concrete. Second, identify your tests. Where do those principles get challenged in your life? In business? In relationships? In social situations? Anticipate the pressure points. Third, decide in advance. Don't wait until you're in the moment to decide what you'll do. Decide now. When my integrity is tested by situation, I will action. When loyalty conflicts with convenience, I will choose loyalty. When honesty costs me money, I will choose honesty. Because if you wait until the moment to decide, emotion will win. Pressure will win. But if you've decided in advance, you're just executing a plan. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." And being one requires knowing what good means to you, specifically, concretely, unambiguously, and then living that definition. Every single day, in every single choice. Even when, especially when, it's hard. Because that's when it counts. That's when people are watching. That's when respect is earned. And once you've demonstrated that you have principles and you keep them, once people know what you stand for and that you won't abandon it, they respect you, even if they disagree with you, even if they'd make different choices. They respect that you're someone solid, someone real, someone who means what they say. And that respect? It's worth more than any popularity you'd gain by being flexible. Character trait number 7, genuine humility. Finally, let's talk about the trait that ties everything together. Humility. Not fake humility, not self-deprecation, not weakness disguised as modesty, but genuine humility. The kind that comes from truly understanding your place in the universe. The kind that knows you're capable, but also knows you're not the center of everything. The kind that can celebrate others without feeling diminished. Here's what most men get wrong. They think humility means making yourself small, playing down your accomplishments, pretending you're not as good as you are. But that's not humility. That's insecurity. Real humility is accurate self-assessment. You know what you're good at. You know what you're not good at. And you're comfortable with both. You don't need to exaggerate your strengths, and you don't need to hide your weaknesses. You just are who you are, and you're okay with that. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world at his time, wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" He understood that his position didn't make him more important, it made him more responsible. That's humility. Knowing that power is about service, not status. That leadership is about making others better, not making yourself feel important. Men who command respect don't need to brag. They don't need to dominate every conversation. They don't need to prove they're the smartest person in the room, because they're secure enough that other people's success doesn't threaten them. Other people's intelligence doesn't make them feel stupid. Other people's spotlight doesn't make them feel invisible. Epictetus taught, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." And arrogant men think they already know everything. So they stop learning, stop growing, stop evolving. But humble men know they don't know everything. So they stay curious. They ask questions. They listen. They're willing to be wrong. And that openness, it's magnetic, because people feel safe around humble people. They feel elevated, not diminished. They feel like their contributions matter, and that feeling creates loyalty, creates respect, creates the kind of following that force never could. Here's the practice. First, give credit freely. When something goes well, acknowledge everyone who contributed. Don't take all the credit. Spread it around. This doesn't diminish you, it elevates everyone, including you. Second, admit what you don't know. "I don't know" is one of the most powerful phrases in leadership. It shows confidence, not weakness, because only insecure people need to pretend they know everything. Third, ask for help. Asking for help doesn't make you weak. It makes you smart. It shows you care more about the outcome than your ego. Fourth, celebrate others genuinely. When someone else succeeds, celebrate it. Not performatively, not grudgingly, genuinely, because their success doesn't take away from yours. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you, and humble people attract those people, because they're not competition, they're collaborators. They're not threats, they're teammates. And in that collaboration, everyone rises, including you. So if you want to command respect, be the person who makes others feel respected. Be the person who elevates instead of dominates. Be the person who's secure enough to celebrate others. Because that security, that's real power. And real power commands respect, without ever having to demand it." Integration, the compound effect of character. So here's what we've covered. The 7 character traits that make you command respect. 1. Unshakable integrity. Do what's right, always. 2. Calm under pressure. Composure when others panic. 3. Radical accountability. Own your results, no excuses. 4. Consistent discipline. Show up every day, no exceptions. 5. Controlled emotional expression. Feel everything. Control the response. 6. Principled decision-making. Know what you stand for. Stand there. 7. Genuine humility. Secure enough to elevate others individually. Each trait is powerful, but together, they're transformative because they compound. Integrity makes your discipline meaningful. Discipline makes your accountability consistent. Accountability makes your emotional control necessary. Emotional control makes your decision-making clearer. Principled decisions make your humility genuine, and humility makes your integrity accessible to others. It's a system, a way of being that reinforces itself. And when you build these traits, when you integrate them into who you are, respect becomes inevitable. Not because you're performing, but because you've become someone worthy of respect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." And the same is true for respect. It's not about what you have, what you've accomplished, what title you hold. It's about who you are, in the small moments, in the hard decisions, in the quiet choices no one sees. That's where character is built, and character is what commands respect. Aristotle said, "Quality is not an act, it is a habit." And these 7 traits, they're habits, built through repetition, strengthened through practice, proven through consistency. So start today. Pick one trait to focus on this week. Practice it in small ways. Let it become natural. Then add another. And over time, months, years, you'll become someone you respect. And when you respect yourself, when you've built character that can withstand pressure, failure, success, everyone else's respect follows. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through 1,000 small choices, through living with integrity when it would have been easier to compromise, through staying calm when everyone else panicked, through taking responsibility when you could have blamed, through showing up when you didn't feel like it, through controlling your emotions when you wanted to explode, through making principled decisions when popularity pointed elsewhere, through staying humble when ego tempted you. That's how respect is built. Not through force, not through performance, but through character. Consistent, genuine, unshakable character. Command worth following. There's a certain kind of man who commands respect without trying. You've met him. Maybe you work with him. Maybe you've read about him. Maybe you're trying to become him. And what makes him different isn't talent, isn't luck, isn't charisma. It's character. He's built something inside that can't be shaken, something that shows in every decision, every interaction, every moment. People feel it. They feel that they're dealing with someone solid, someone real, someone who means what they say and does what they promise, someone who doesn't need perfect conditions to be who they are. And they respect that, not because they have to, but because they can't help it. Because respect is the natural response to genuine character. Seneca left us with this: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And most men suffer in imagination about respect. They imagine they need to be louder, more aggressive, more dominant. But the reality is simpler. Build character and respect follows. Not immediately, not dramatically, but inevitably. Like water finding its level. Like gravity pulling things down. Like consequences following actions. It's natural. It's automatic. It's earned. So stop trying to command respect through force. Stop demanding it through position. Stop performing it through personality. And start building it through character, through integrity, composure, accountability, discipline, emotional mastery, principles, and humility. Those 7 traits, practiced daily, integrated deeply, lived authentically, that's the path. And it's available to you right now, starting today with one small choice: to be the kind of man you'd respect. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." So say to yourself, I will be a man of character. I will be a man worthy of respect. I will be a man who lives by principles, not convenience. And then do what you have to do. Every day, in every choice, until those traits aren't things you practice, but who you are. Stay focused, stay grounded, and remember, the quiet work you do today is shaping the strength they'll never see coming. Let them chase status, titles, recognition. You build character, because character is what lasts. Character is what matters. Character is what commands respect. Not today, maybe, but eventually, inevitably, permanently.